We are out and about reviewing the 180-600 new Z offering from Nikon versus
200-500 5.6 VR f-mount lens on FTZ adapter.
So we're gonna compare sharpness, focusing speed, just general handling, because some of you may already have a 200-500, some of you may be considering purchasing one for your long lens needs. We're gonna tell you what we think.
From infinity to close focusing distance, it's not as fast as the native lens. But anything from mid-range to infinity is totally fine.
Interesting.
Well, I guess it's, it's expected from f-mount lens. It's not native lens. It still has to work through the FTZ adapter.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about just physical comparison between the two lenses. So the 200-500 is 2.3 kilograms, while the Z lens is 2,150 grams. Now, if you remove tripod foot from both lenses, then this one's about 150 grams weight, and the other one is about 200 grams in weight. Still, the Z lens is a little bit lighter, and actually you can feel it after a long day of shooting. Both are hand-holdable, but not for a long period of time. Now, in terms of actual size, the 200-500 out of the box is smaller, but remember that you still need to add the FTZ adapter. And once you put a lens hood on, they're literally pretty much the same size. So in terms of size and weight, then one is lighter, size is about the same.
Cool. We talk about the actual layout of the lenses themselves. The 180-600 is quite customizable, like a lot of new Z lenses. We've got a function ring, we've got function buttons, and we have a full and limit switch, as well as your auto and manual focus switch on the lens. Now, the 200-500 has a lot more switches, but it doesn't have any of these customizable buttons. So if you've gotten very used to the idea of maybe having your ISO set to your function ring or a focus recall on one of the buttons here, then you're not going to be able to get that with the 200-500. Now with the 200-500, you have lots of switches. So you have the option of a normal or a sport mode of VR. If you are on a moving vehicle or your subject is moving fast and you need to pan, then you can put it onto sport mode. However, the VR is a little bit jerky, which we do find with a lot of f-mount lenses on the FTZ. It's something that we can see through the viewfinder, so worth bearing in mind. Another thing that the 200-500 has is the lock, so that the lens doesn't creep out while you're walking around with it pointing downwards. The Z lenses don't seem to have this, or at least that one doesn't. So I guess it's designed so that it doesn't creep out when you're zooming in and out.
It doesn't creep out when you're zooming in and out.
It doesn't creep out when you're zooming in and out.
That's a slogan on a t-shirt.
We should do that.
So what we've noticed with the f-mount 200-500 on a Z body, if you use a normal vibration reduction, you've got the option between normal and sports vibration reduction on the lens via the switch. If you use normal, after taking a shot, you'll see that the frame is shifting by something like 1 or 2 centimeters. And in some cases, we notice also the image becomes out of focus as well at the same time. That happens not only on Z8, but cameras like Z6 and Z7. It is less noticeable on those cameras because you have an actual mechanical shutter. So you have a bit of blackout, so you don't see it shifting. While on Z8 and Z9, you actually see a little jerk, a little shift between the images while you're taking it. Now, setting vibration reduction to sports mode eliminates this issue. But if you do want to use normal, you will see that shift pretty much every image you take. So I would recommend, if you want to stick with this lens, set it to sport vibration reduction mode.
One thing I notice immediately is that the zoom throw on the 200-500 is about double the 180 to 600. So the 180 to 600, it's a 70-degree turn to get from 180 to 600. On this lens, it's about 180 degrees, roughly. So you really, if you're hand holding, have to crank it all the way around in order to get from one end to the other. Not a big deal if you know that, but it's quite hard work, particularly with a lens of this size and weight. Come on, tell me about the autofocus speed.
All right, so autofocus on 200 to 500 is not as fast as on native 180 to 600 lens. Now, in a native 180 to 600 lens, you got yourself a supercar. You got a really fast camera using the really fast focusing motor. So perfect combination. Now with this one, you got yourself a bit of a tractor. So it's a bit slow. It takes time to focus between, let's say, close focusing distance and infinity. Definitely not as snappy. Mid-range is a bit faster, but also what we've noticed is that all the fancy bird recognition or people recognition is a bit slower with f-mount lenses compared to the native Z-mount. So Becky's taking some test shots.
I am actually taking some test shots.
Pretends that she knows what she's doing.
I want to compare the two lenses just on something that is a little bit more day-to-day, rather than trying to take a picture of a bird in flight and then say one lens is better than the other. I thought, let's pick static subjects, things that are not moving. On a hot day like today, of course, I'm going to pick some flowers.
Hey. All right, so I got 200 to 500 now.
Yeah.
They can search for the same flower.
Yeah.
But the flower is moving though.
Not much. A little bit of wind. Oh, you locked it. I mean, that was smart of you to lock it. I will say, I am hard pushed to see a difference. If you took a bunch of shots of static subjects and put them in front of me, I'd probably be very, very hard pushed to tell you which lens took which photo. I don't think that the Z lens necessarily comes on leaps and bounds over the 200 to 500, but there are some convenience factors on the Z lens as well as the speed of focus. One thing that I notice is when you're shooting at the very close focusing distance, the 200 to 500 is slower to focus, even with a static subject. So there's a few little things there, but if you've got a 200 to 500 and you're on the fence, then it's good to know that it's a good all-round performer.
The kids are all right.
It's good to know the kids are all right. We've done some sharpness tests. We have used the 200 to 500 before, and we kind of know its limitations, but it is really interesting to see it as compared to the 180 to 600. I think, what did we find? Well,
the results are quite predictable, actually. So yes, the native lens is better, it's lighter, it's a little bit more expensive, but you do get the native performance, all the autofocus speed, all the subject recognition, but it's more expensive. So as a budget option, 200 to 500 with FTZ is a good choice because you can pick them up now second-hand, reasonably inexpensively, and it will do the job, but it will give you the reach. However, you want to get something better, then just go for the native glass. Again, it goes to 600, it's a little bit sharper, and autofocus is faster, as well as image quality, actually.
That's right. I would say if your main subjects are primarily slow-moving or static, then the 200 to 500 is going to be totally fine. At the closest focusing distances, it's also pretty sharp. If your subjects are more erratic or you are doing a lot of fast-moving action, then the 180 to 600 gives you that advantage that you just won't get from the 200 to 500.
If you'd like us to do more comparisons like this, do let us know in the comment below.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, and there's super thanks as well if you're up to it.
Hello and welcome for macro photography course with Con.
Using any and every lens for macro.
Today we're going to use 600mm and 8mm fisheye for some beautiful flower shots of red flowers.